Welcome to the In Search of More podcast. I am your host, Eli Nash. Join me weekly on my quest for more from myself and more from this world. We'll see you on the other side. All right, welcome. Welcome, Rabbi Chay Amar. How are you?
Pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so I'm sitting here with, as mentioned, Rabbi Chay Amar, Chabad Rabbi of Golden Beach. And we've connected in the past. We know each other for a while, but recently you reached out to me about wanting to do a one-day retreat at the House of More, which, while many Jews come through the house looking for healing, it's not always people who look like you who offer the healing. So obviously, the event happened. The event went well. I believe you had a nice turnout. I think 25 or so people came to the event. And afterwards, we began talking, and it was nice to hear that there was a rabbi who was talking about breathing and meditation, and you're probably joining a long legacy of rabbis in this pursuit, but not so much the modern day. So I'd love to hear how you got here, how you arrived at a place that you're leading a retreat on these topics: meditation, breathwork, and of course Kabbalah and others.
So first of all, let me say it's an honor and a pleasure to be in this podcast. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I really admire the work that you're doing. You've been doing for years to bring healing to the world. And every single one of us has a certain healing power. Some people heal with words. Some people heal with their actions. We saw how the Rebbe, with just one word, could reframe a whole situation and open a new horizon that we didn't know was there. And one of the great teachings, I think, of Hasidus and the Rebbe is don't be a clone. Don't be a clone. You have your potential. You have your qualities. I remember once a lawyer asking the Rebbe if now that he became a Baal Tshuva, he became observant, maybe he should stop his studies as a lawyer, and the Rebbe encouraging him to finish and to get the title of lawyer. Like this, he'll have a greater power of influence. It's not about escaping the world, it's about living with the world. It's not about escaping yourself, it's about blending in your reality, your past, your experiences, and recognizing that too is a part of God's plan, and understanding that as you go along and you learn certain things, there's a purpose. Everything is Ashgaha Pratit, is divine providence, and once you flow with that, it's incredible what your soul teaches you. So I've always been attracted to meditation. I've taught meditation for as long as I can remember, for 25 years. When you go to a Hasidic yeshiva, I did not come from, I was traditional when I grew up.
You grew up where?
I grew up in Montreal. I was born in Israel, but we left when I was 2.5. And I became observant when I was about 14 years old. I had this tremendous thirst for Yiddishkeit. My grandfather was a great Talmid Chacham, a sage and of Torah, very, very diligent in his studies, and he was from Morocco. And I grew up with this thirst to know more and so on. And in that thirst, I came close to Lubavitch, and most importantly, I had the pleasure when I was 15 and a half, for the first time, to spend a Shabbat with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Rebbe gave me very special attention. Besides a certain interaction I had with the Rebbe at a Farbrengen, where there was a very small crowd, and I suddenly moved my hand, the Rebbe motioned back to me. The Rebbe once stopped and looked at me in the eyes and took me to a place where space and time didn't exist. And for a moment, I had a taste of infinity, if you could say that, living fully in the present. It was something very special. I got letters from the Rebbe. I did not study in Chabad originally.
What was the context of your first trip to the
My first
to
trip,
Rebbe?
a friend of mine told me, they're doing this trip for Shabbat. Let's go. Maybe you want to go. We'll spend Shabbat there by the Rebbe.
So you're joining like a Shabbaton, a Pegisha.
Yeah,
sort of.
Shabbaton of guys from Montreal, young guys from Montreal. I went, and it was after Shabbos passed. Sunday, I was waiting for my bus, the Hyman bus that goes from New York to Montreal.
I'm familiar with it.
Where
I spent a couple years in yeshiva in Montreal.
And as I'm waiting for my bus, they're telling me the Rebbe is coming back from the Ohel. And I heard about it, so quickly I ran to 770. And there weren't a lot of people, so I stood on the right side. So like this, the Rebbe would notice me. I really wanted the Rebbe to notice me. Not that same day, the Rebbe gave me a bracha in French, bon voyage, bon mazal, bonne nouvelle, good trip, good mazel, and good news, as I was going to yeshiva in Israel. And here, the Rebbe, for a split second, looked at me in my eyes. And even though, usually when the Rebbe passes by, you follow him with your eyes, I didn't follow the Rebbe with my eyes. I was just continuing to look in the direction where the Rebbe looked at me. I spaced out somewhere. I don't know where I was. But I came back to myself. And that affected me. It was like one split second. But just like by dollars, when you have 5,000 or 6,000 people waiting for dollars, and the person before and the person after do not count, the moment the Rebbe puts his holy eyes on you, it's like, that's eternity. Or when you're at the Farbrengen, there's 5,000, 10,000 people, and when the Rebbe motion said L'chaim to you, it was to you and not the person to the right or to the left. I think that in itself is the greatest lesson in success, the greatest lesson in maximizing your potential. Being so present that a split second of putting your eyes somewhere will have an effect, which will be an effect for eternity. And I think that's something that we've lost today. We've lost living in the present tense. We are so much all over the place. And I believe if I would have been diagnosed, if the word ADHD existed, I would definitely be one of these guys that had a four-letter word after my name. That's not PhD, but ADHD. And I want to tell you, it's been a struggle with me because I've always, I always wondered, why is it that each time I want to do something, I'm not fully immersed. I want to do the next better thing because I want to make sure that I don't lose out and I'm going to be the best at what I'm going to do. It was always like a tremendous struggle. So the Rebbe foresaw this, and when I was 20 years old, I wrote a letter with a resolution to the Rebbe for my 20th birthday. And it was 63 days before Chav Zayin Adar, which was when the Rebbe had a stroke. So for the Rebbe to answer such a letter, when the Rebbe was getting between 400 to 700 pieces of mail daily, is incredible. The Rebbe is dealing with life and death issues all over the world. Some kid, 20 years old, writes a letter with a resolution for his birthday. The Rebbe is going to take the time, and within 10 days, I had a letter in Manchester, England, where I was studying at the time. Why? What was so important? You might think I wrote that I'm going to be this, this person that knows the whole Talmud or studied all of the teachings of the Rebbe. No. I simply wrote to the Rebbe that I was going to be on time for each one of the 4 periods of learning. And the first 10 minutes, I would not speak to anybody. I would be fully immersed with my book already open when the clock hits the time. And like this, it was the best year of my life. Once I had the first 10 minutes of full focus, 2-3 hours passed by and I was present. I realized that this was a great message. The Rebbe
So
said,
that was the resolution.
That was my resolution for
What
my
was his
birthday.
response?
The Rebbe's response is, I'm going to pray for you. The fact that the Rebbe responded already was tremendous. But the fact that the Rebbe said, I'm going to go and pray for you, and basically encouraging me in this, I understood that this was going to be the key to all my issues. When I say my issues, the issue of, for example, the Rebbe instituted to study 3 chapters of Maimonides. And sometimes it's very long. And, I get lazy, discouraged. Tomorrow, I have the tomorrow syndrome, or whatever, to study Likutei Torah or other studies. It's like sometimes it's the page is there's too many words on the page. What's happened? And I realized the trick is very simple. I'm not studying for 2 hours. I'm going to take 10 minutes. But the 10 minutes, I'm going to be fully present. And once I had my first 10 minutes, like this, I was able to finish so many different things that I would never believe I'm able to do. And that's why I advise most people. Everybody has an app, and in the app you have a timer, you put 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, I'm going to pay attention to my wife. For 10 minutes, I'm going to pay attention to my kids. I'm going to pay attention to myself. You know what? For 10 minutes, I'm going to breathe. We don't know how to breathe. We'll talk about that in a second. But that was, for me, like a great message from the Rebbe. I encourage you in what you're doing, because at the end of the day, it's not about the great quantity, it's about the investment of where you are. The Rebbe didn't travel.
So when you wrote that letter, you obviously didn't expect to receive a response.
I didn't expect, no. Who expected to receive a response at that time? That didn't make sense to receive a response. I mean, people, the Rebbe is dealing with all the world's
And
problems.
what was the reason to send it?
Why did I send it? Oh, it's a custom in Chabad for your birthday to take a resolution and,
I got you, okay.
And to grow. But to go back to what I was saying before, you see, I studied in both Zionist and Litvish yeshiva before I went to Chabad. And I was very, very pushed not to go to Chabad by my teachers, because they said that over there I would waste my time, I would not study Talmud, I would end up putting on tefillin with people all day and study only Tanya, and I would be this big ignoramus, that knows nothing. And I was really hesitant at that time. I wanted to really be a chassid on one hand, and on the other hand, I wanted to be, a genius in Torah, like they told me I could be great, and so on.
But that was a criticism, that you're going to waste your time putting tefillin on people?
Yeah. That was a criticism.
They were right.
Yeah. Yeah, there was.
I noticed when you walked in here, the first thing you did is check to see
and Baruch Hashem, I got to put on tefillin with your wife's uncle.
Yeah.
Thank God. He told me he didn't put them on for 20 years.
Wow.
So it's great.
And he was here for 10 days, so I missed the opportunity.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, but we did it. You didn't miss the opportunity. You invited me.
Right.
So it happened exactly at the right time. So at the end, anyways, I'm not going to go through the process of why I chose to go to Chabad. So I went to Chabad, and I saw something incredible. I saw that, first of all, prayer is not just going through the motions. No, you have an hour and a half where you study about God. Maimonides says in the laws of Tshuva, ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, you should love the Lord your God. Eno ohev ela bedat sheyadeu, you cannot love something you don't know. And therefore, he says, you have to study the subjects that bring you to understand more God. And Chassidus is all about learning about God, learning about your soul, learning about that connection you have. Can you imagine, Eli, for a second, that the creator of the whole universe, and when we talk about the universe, we're not talking about the planet Earth, we're talking about the infinite, like the
Galaxies.
whole universe. The creator of all of this, you have a spark of that creator inside of you? Do we realize this? Do we realize the power that we have inside of us? God created the world, but he put a part of him inside of us, which means we have the power to create. And I think that's the message of the Rebbe, that every one of us is a creator at a certain level. We could create reality. There's a story I love to say. I heard from one of my teachers, Rabbi Shmuel Stauber, which was a very, very great therapist.
Said Shmuel Stauber.
Stauber, yes. Rabbi Shmuel Stauber of blessed memory. And he was an imagotherapist, and I brought him down many times to speak. He taught me a lot of things. And he once told me a story that I really like very, very much. He said one day, there's this man that takes his 6-year-old son, to work. There's no internet, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no all of these gadgets. And the kid says, I'm bored. He says, go play with your cars. The kid plays with his cars. 15 minutes later, he comes back and he says, I'm bored. Okay, so go draw something. He comes back, and 15 minutes later, he says, I'm done, I'm bored. It's 9:30, the father's going nuts. He says, I'm not going to get any work done today. So he says to the kid, you know what? One second. He opens a newspaper and he sees a map of the world. So he decides to cut the map of the world into 50 pieces. He tells the kid, go put the world together. Go in the conference room. The kid goes in the conference room. 20 minutes later, lo and behold, he comes. He says, Daddy, I put the world together. His father tells him, please, Yosele, leave me alone. I need to work. Come. And he sees there's Canada. Under Canada, there's America. Then there's half a wall. Then there's Mexico. And so on and so forth. You know. Oh, he said, how did you do it? How did you put the world together? He says, Daddy, I'll tell you the truth. On the other side of the newspaper, there was a picture of a man. Once I put the man together, the whole world came together. I remember when he told me that story, it's like, you know what? This is what it says in the Kuzari, in the Rambam says it, Tana Devilio says it, that the whole world is a big body and man is a small universe. But inside of us, we have the power by changing ourselves to be able to perceive a different world, a different reality. It's the same world, but the reality you live in, right? This is what's going to change how you perceive the world. Chassidus explains this. And when you take the time to study it, it's not, even Chassidus, you need to take, it's like a good espresso. A double espresso, you sip it, and if you like with the extra sugar, like I do, you sip it, and you don't want that last drop you want to enjoy. In the yeshiva where I learned, in Chabad Yeshiva in Manchester, we learned that Chassidus is something that you have.
Was that Akiva Cohen?
Yes, Rabbi Akiva Cohen.
I was there too.
And we learned that it's about absorbing it, making part of your system. And therefore, sometimes I would take a Hasidic discourse and I would take it for a month. I would sleep with it. I would pray with it. I would meditate on it. I would walk with it. I would review it. I would share it with people. I would wake up with it. And when you do that,
what is it? That line, kachva, something like you.
You turn it over this way, that way. And then suddenly, my perception was different. There's a saying from the Mittler Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe asks a question in Derech Chaim. He asks, why does it say, "Velo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem"? You should not stray after your hearts and then your eyes. You should have said your eyes and then your heart.
Right.
People in Florida, everybody's on a diet. Right? How do we break diet? You look, you see, you say, okay, tomorrow I'll start. You feel, and then you eat. That's how you break every diet. First you see, says the Mittler Rebbe, a person only perceives with his eyes what he desires in his heart. Which means that if you're filling your head with TikTok and all the social networking, right? Then this is the way you perceive life. You need to have this handbag. You need to have this car. You become a needy person. When, on the other hand, you fill your mind with Hasidic philosophy and you understand a little more the vitality of how God operates in this world, how He operates inside of you, at this moment you realize how mighty God is. And the moment you realize how mighty God is and you connect to Him, it's a different connection. You understand that when I went to yeshiva and Chabad, suddenly I'm studying Hasidus for an hour and a half, and then I'm talking to the God I just learned about. This is like another type of meeting, If I tell you, you're going to meet with this guy, right, Joseph Goldstein. Okay, big deal. No, Joseph Goldstein is worth $12 billion. Oh, okay, one second. Tell me more about him. I'm interested.
I was actually thinking about this when you mentioned the Rebbe. I was going to ask you this question. I don't know if it's a disrespectful question, but I'll ask it in any case. So when you spoke about your experience of walking past him, right, and you said that you felt completely transported by the gaze. So how much of that was because of everything you had heard about the Rebbe before, and how much, maybe you don't know the answer, and how much would have happened regardless? Meaning if you would have, no one would have told you who he was. You just happened to see this man, not with all the trappings around it.
I'm embarrassed to answer that question and tell you that I didn't know very much of Rebbe when I met him. It's embarrassing to say. I mean, I saw the Rebbe, I heard about the Rebbe, but very, very, very little.
But they were bringing you to him.
Correct, because everybody knows the Rebbe. You're in Montreal, you're there, and right at that time, I did not know what we know today. I think that after Gimel Tammuz, we know much more about the Rebbe than we knew even when we were able to physically see the Rebbe with our eyes. So no, it wasn't because I was impressed and so on and so forth. Just the presence, the Rebbe's presence, already is awe-inspiring. It's very hard. Even when the reason I came to Florida is because the Rebbe sent me. By the way, I don't know if you ever knew this.
Tell us the story.
I was a yeshiva boy in 770, and in 1993, I had a physical health problem. Even though I'm from Canada, I had a big problem with the cold. Even though I was a very serious yeshiva boy, I could not get up in the mornings. I wasn't able to function. So I wrote to the Rebbe that I have an option to go to Morocco, to a warmer place to study. Didn't get an answer. I wrote to the Rebbe, I would like to stay in 770 and be healthy. No answer. Then we had a meeting.
This was in 93?
In 93, yeah.
He was corresponding in some way?
Yeah, correct. Through the secretary, they were asking, and the Rebbe would nod and answer this or that. Okay. So I wrote to the Rebbe then that the deans of the yeshiva said, California is not for me, it's too coarse, but I should go to Miami. I don't know how Miami is less coarse than California, but that's not a discussion for now. And then I wrote to the Rebbe that I was offered to go to Miami. Within half an hour, Rabbi Binyamin Klein, the Rebbe's secretary, came down and looked for me and said, the Rebbe said, go to Miami now. And that's how I ended up in Miami, and the rest is history. So that was just a side point.
Yeah.
So to go back to our issue, and when I was in yeshiva, I was so taken by prayer that I would, besides the fact that I was very attracted to old Hasidim, and I had the opportunity from the age of 15, right, to the age of 19, 20, when I was in Manchester, to encounter old Hasidim, El Hasidim, like Rav Moshe Rubin in Montreal, which used to pray for hours, and took me under his wing because I once saw him pray, and I said, wow, this guy is actually talking to God. He's not just reading the book. God is in front of him. The moment he's like taking an hour and a half to pray and to just say and pour his heart out. It's beautiful. So I went up to him and I told him, I would like to learn with you. And for the next summer, every day he would study with me. So when I was in Shiva in Manchester, I really took this very much to heart. And I would pray for an hour and a half every day. I had special permission from the yeshiva. On Shabbat, sometimes, and Shabbat, I would get up early and sometimes pray from 10 a.m. all the way to 3:30 p.m. and just meditate on the things that I learned. And I don't know if it's because I'm ADHD but it was like the most healing process to be able to block out the world, but not by fighting with the outside and fighting with your thoughts, but just redirecting them and focusing them again and again on the words, on the relationship, on the simple thing saying, you, me, us, you, us. At the end of each word in Hebrew, right, it expresses that relationship and understanding. This is a personal relationship. Right? You bring life, vitality to all. You bring into existence the whole world, every second from nothing to something. What does that mean exactly? Right? And when you have that, and so suddenly, as we said before, what you have in your heart, what you have in your brain, that's what you perceive. So you understand that you have 99.9% of the planet which is immersed in social media all day and perceiving a world that has nothing to do with the world that the Rebbe offered us on a silver plate, which is a world where we tap into not only our physical potential, our mental and emotional potential, our spiritual potential, our godly potential. I remember once having an experience where I was somewhere and I just, for a second, I just felt the greatness of God. And I felt so small. For a second, I felt like so small. I said, how can I, a little small, nothing, in front of this great, awesome God, how can I serve him? I'm a nobody. And I was thinking about it. The more I'm a nobody, the greater he is. The greater he is, the more I'm a nobody. And then, one second. So, we always have that struggle between self-esteem, ego, humility, and this misconception in Chabad, bitul, a word that's very, very scary. You have to be bitul. You're a nobody. You're a zero. God forbid you should have ego. Is that really the purpose? And then I realized, one second, the more God is great, the smaller I am. But the greater God is, the greater I realize the part of God which is inside of me is as well. Which means the greater the self-esteem I have. Because my self-esteem doesn't come from this or that. It comes from the fact that inside of me, I have the master of the whole universe inside of me. So anything is possible if I put my ego aside, and if I am able to quiet down the mind, which brings us back to breathing.
We should call it something other than self-esteem, then.
What?
We should call it something other than self-esteem. Maybe God-esteem.
I think there's true self-esteem, because at the end of the day, that's your true identity. One of the things of Chabad is that there's really no labels on a person. If you look in Tanya, there's no such a thing as a person that, he's labeled to be this. No, you might be doing something, but your true identity is your soul.
Right, like labeling someone an addict.
The body might be caught up in
all sorts of stuff. It's not who they are.
You understand? But it's not who they are. And that's the problem. The problem is once you focus on the addiction, once you focus on the problem, and this becomes your hyper-focus, then you're not going anywhere. The Alter Rebbe says, in chapter 28. He says, how can you elevate yourself above when you're bound below? No, just look at yourself. Today's a new day. The Rebbetzin was once asked, what's the Rebbe's favorite prayer? And she asked the Rebbe, and she came back. She said, Modeh lefanecha. Today, Hashem, thank you for giving me back my soul. And basically, Rabbi Munatech, I love the fact, I thank you for the fact that you believe in me. Yesterday, 2 seconds ago, I did something wrong. But today you believe in me again? Do you imagine that renewal, that tremendous, infinite love that he has for us? And we have to have for ourselves as well. And to serve, you see, Chabad is incredible. On one hand, you have to be super honest with yourself and not lie to yourself, not bluff yourself. On the other hand, you have to be able to break out of yourself.
What's the tension there?
What's the tension? Is that sometimes you'll say, who am I and what am I? I'm a nobody. So how can I break out of myself? How can I go out of my comfort zone? How can I do this? I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to influence somebody else.
Right.
I was telling somebody yesterday, I was having lunch with my wife somewhere, and I got 6 people to put on tefillin at the restaurant. So this lady from Borough Park comes up to me. She said, I was almost in tears when I saw these Jews willing to put on tefillin. And So I told her the story of this banker that came to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, you have Jewish employees, and do you put on film with them? So the banker laughed at the Rebbe and said, Rebbe, I don't put on film. You want me to put on film with them? And the Rebbe said, because you don't put on film, they should lose out. You see, it's like both things. Because I'm not holding where I'm supposed to, so somebody else should lose out. I should not be a channel for that moment that's going to be... And the change, if you think about this whole vision of creating shluchim and making the whole generation emissaries of light for the world, it's basically telling you, you could have been in the lowest place yesterday. You could have lived your life in the most darkest, disgusting, lowliest, and call it all the bad names you want, with all the traumas and all the whole list. Doesn't matter. You have a mission. And if you have a mission, it's just a question of changing that direction and acting differently. The Rebbe said it in Maimer Velo Yikanef Od Morecha, that was said in the year 1960-61. And the Rebbe said that one day somebody came to the Alter Rebbe and said he said, your Hasidim are bluffers, they're fakers. Why are they fakers? They pretend, they
Someone
pray.
came to which Rebbe and said this?
The Alter Rebbe.
The Alter Rebbe, okay.
The Alter Rebbe. So somebody came to the Alter Rebbe and says, your Hasidim, your followers are fakers. They do like, they're so careful and so pious and everything. But really they're not. So the Alter Rebbe looked and smiled and said, thank you. At the end of the Mishnah in Peah, it says that a person that pretends to be needy when he's not will become needy. So somebody that fakes it will eventually become it. So I'm so happy that that's what they're faking. Look at what everybody else is faking. So yes, we're going to fake to meditate and pray and feel connected and disconnect from the world. So at the beginning, it's not natural.
Let's go back to what you were saying about you started going into breathing, and then I interrupted you with a question, but you said about quieting the ego, quieting the mind.
Oh, yes. So,
and through breathing.
The Rebbe Rasham, in the Hemshech Tafshin Tavresh Ayin Beis, Ayin Beis, he says over there about the word Keser. Keser, the crown. He says, what is Keser? First page at the bottom of the page. He says, Keser comes from the verse, Kasar li Zair, wait a little for me. And he brings the Sefer Abayir, the Sefer Yetzirah. He says, Shtok, be quiet, await the revelation that is coming to you. Blom picha miledaber, swallow, right? Don't speak, swallow your words, and just silence yourself and await the revelation. That is the crown. We know that in Chassidus, in Ranat, it explains that the ideas, they come from the crown. They come from the highest place, which is above the mind. In order for...
Keser is kind of like the first of the Sfirot.
Yes,
right.
Yes. And once there is a space, there's silence, over there can reside the creative idea. And you could draw new energies that weren't there before. If you look at this whole generation, what is the typical person doing when they're having a conversation on the phone? They're watching, there's the default mode on most YouTube videos and Instagram and all these things is to be on mute. So like this, a person can have two conversations at the same time or have no conversations at the same time, which means you're having a conversation with somebody, but you need to keep your eyes busy, right? You're doing something, you need to have something on your ears. You need to always have, you cannot be silent.
What you meant is being on the phone with someone and watching a YouTube video
Correct.
at the same time.
Correct.
I thought I was the only one who did that.
Everybody does. And you know what? This becomes an addiction. This becomes an attachment to your body and to your mind, not being satisfied, creating all these
stimulations,
neuroreceptors, right? These receptors that need to be fed all the time. So you don't know what it means to be calm. I'll tell you an experience I had many years ago when I brought my son. Every son of mine that went to yeshiva, wherever it was in the world in general, I traveled with them and I made sure to be with them. I think it's very important for a father to be there and to show how important it is for your child, even if you have a lot of children, to make sure that they're comfortable, even though many parents don't.
You're saying the first day of school?
The first day, yeah, the first day. So I traveled to Tzfat. My son studied in Tzfat. Now, I've been in Tzfat many times. For most of us, please correct me, Tzfat is a one-day trip. You're in Jerusalem. You go for one day at Tzfat. You do Meron, Tzfat, Tveria, and you did the whole north, and you did the Arizal, everything. But here, I was stuck in Tzfat for 3 days. And my son was a little embarrassed that I was going to sit in yeshiva, be back a bacher. But the only father that shows up is going to sit in yeshiva on the first day. Get out of here. So I went to Tzanz, which is not very far, in Kikar Rimonim, and with a beautiful, beautiful view. And I remember that experience. I said, that's it, Shai, you're going back to yeshiva. This is beautiful. You've always wanted this. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I finished praying, finished davening. I opened a Gemara. And for 45 minutes, Eli, I wasn't able to utter one word. My mind and my body were so agitated inside. I'm not getting any phone calls. We're 7 hours ahead at 9 o'clock in the morning. In every country, there's the silent part, the silent city of the country, that's Tzfat. And in every city, there's the silence part of the city, that's the old city in Tzfat. I was there in the silence of the silence. And I'm here. The Gemara is looking at me and saying, no. I'm looking at it and says, I don't know. It's just, my mind can't settle down. I'm not used to this. I'm not used to this silence. And then I realized there's something completely wrong. Afterwards, I calmed my mind, and hopefully, eventually I started learning. I found a partner to learn, and we studied. But for so many people, it's such a struggle. If you realize the success of the Rebbe, the ability to focus. I think the Rebbe once asked, how long can you focus without having any interruption in your mind? The Rebbe said something like 48 hours. Don't quote me on this. Today, people can't focus for 48 seconds. So to give the gift to somebody of silencing your mind is basically an invitation to your soul, to your mind, to your creative self, to your greater self, to speak to you. I always ask people in my lectures about Egypt, when exactly did the process of coming out of Egypt start? So when Charlton Heston goes and says, let my people go, no. No. It's that moment that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, stands by the bush, stops. Asurana ve'eret Maria Gadol. I'm going to step back and see what's happening here. I'm going to ask myself a question. I'm going to think, how is it possible this bush is burning, but it's not being consumed? There's something that doesn't fit here. At the moment that Moshe Rabbeinu stops and asks a question, now we could talk about freedom. Because at that moment, God appears to him and says, okay, now you can liberate the Jewish people. You can be the liberator. Why? Because if you look what happened in Egypt, Velo shamu al Moshe, they could not hear. The words couldn't penetrate their ears. Mikotze ruach, because of the shortness of breath. And mavodah kasha, because of the hard work. Instead of being human beings, they were human doings, human doers. You're so busy, you don't have time to think. That's slavery. The moment you stop and you're able to ask a question, make space, make silence, that's the beginning of your liberation. And I believe that's why the Gemara in Masechet Pesachim says that the whole Haggadah starts with a question. Because if we don't have questions, then what are you thinking about? What are you living exactly? You're just running, okay, let's go to the next page, let's go to the next thing. Did we finish? We finished? We did it. No.
Okay, so the obvious question is, meaning you were able to bring a pasuk, right? Mikayt Shirach, from shortness of breath, this is what they were struggling with, and Moshe was able to liberate them. It's beautiful, but I have a question. The question is, how come more people aren't saying it? And I'll support what I'm saying with facts. Not long ago, a gentleman by the name of Mayor Collinson sat where you're sitting. You know Mayor Collinson?
Mayor K.
Mayor K. So Mayor K today, he does many things, but he leads breathwork ceremonies. And he sat here and told me that he was challenged by people that what he's doing is Avodah Zarah. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from someone who maybe one day he'll sit on the podcast. I told him I would love to have your ideas here so we can not just have a conversation that only the two of us listen to, For now, he's refused my invitation, but hopefully he'll come. He runs an organization in New York that's meant to help people actually at risk. And he said, I went to a breathwork thing, and it's full of Buddhism. It's all Buddhism. Why is there so much Buddhism? I said, you know what the problem is? That you're not teaching breathwork. I told him, I said, if you're seeing that, if that's the issue, because breathing is just breathing. So what you're saying is beautiful. It's my reality, right? It's my, you mentioned behind here is very quiet. Every weekend I get to be still in silence and whatever that means, right, with my family, but to get to that space of peace. And I know the feeling, it's not long, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I started putting my phone away on Shabbos. And that first 15, 20 minutes when I put the phone away, my hand's still buzzing. It's like, and realizing that's me the whole week. We have podcasts. What it takes for me to have a conversation is this, lights and cameras, right? It has to be dedicated. If not, people get interrupted. We get called, one of us would get a call, or one of us would feel the other one's not present, so we should check out first, right? We need a lot to be present. And breathwork has helped me tremendously, but I also see that you're unique. I'm going to say unique, you're not the only one, but there aren't that many people embracing this message. So where have we, you have a lot of text, a lot to support your position, but where have we lost our way? Why is this not uniform, that this is understood across the board? Why is Mayor K being challenged that he's preaching Avodah Zarah? Why is this guy who's running an organization specifically helping at-risk teens? So he's there wanting to bring healing. He's telling me that he's challenging me, how are you doing breath work? How are you talking about psychedelics? When, let's not talk about psychedelics, that's separate. The conversation started with breath work, when it's filled with Buddhism. So what's the answer? So,
first of all, at the time of the hippies, I think in Tafshin Lamed Aleph, the Rebbe speaks about it. If you look in the Sichos Kodesh, the Rebbe speaks about the fact that every moment that we're not teaching meditation, we're losing souls to other cultures. Somebody that's very knowledgeable in this is a therapist by the name of Ruth Wallen.
We released a podcast with her 2 weeks ago.
Amazing. I'd love to listen to it. I wasn't aware. She's extraordinary. And she worked a lot with Rabbi Greenberg, which gave her a lot of the information from the Rebbe. The Rebbe does say that for people which are healthy, it could make them crazy, right? From what I recall from my conversation with her. But for people which are going through certain struggles, right, it's very a healing process. Let's make a difference, first of all. Breath is breath. We're not going to say that a person that's breathing because he's more conscious of his breathing that he's practicing Buddhism. That would be absolute foolishness, right? Most of us only use, if we're lucky, a third of our breathing capacity. And if you know what type of toxins we have in the body that we're not getting rid of because of that lack of breath, it's ridiculous to say such a thing. But I will say, to defend this person, that it's possible that a lot of people use mantras and certain methods which are used by the Buddhists, and maybe that's where they learned it from, so they don't know how to teach the Jewish way. I'm going to give you a very simple example. A few years ago, it was Shvi Shel Pesach. I said, you know what? I'm going to go on a research in Hasidus Chabad to find all the sources for breathing. And I was so impressed with the amount of stuff there is, and how most importantly it's connected to Mashiach.
Right, this is what you were talking about before. So surah Ach Levavchem B'Achar Einechem, that you first want to see it and then you see it.
Yes, correct. So I was looking, and I looked in the Tzemach Tzedek, I looked in the Alter Rebbe, I looked in the Ma'amorim of the Rebbe.
Can you give some examples of what you found?
Yes, so that's what I'm about to share. So, for example, we know that there's an exercise, right, of breathing with the left nostril and breathing it with the right nostril. Okay? This is a typical exercise that anybody that goes to breathwork will learn. The Alter Rebbe argues with the Kol Barama, Kabbalistic book, on what does the right nostril breath, where does it reach, and where does the left nostril breath reach? The Tzemach Tzedek explains that breathing reaches the avir, the air which is between the krum and the gulgalta, which is the membrane that covers the brain and the actual cranium. Kadmut HaSechel.
What is he trying to say by that?
And there is what we call, what is avir? Avir, breath. We find in the Zohar Kadosh that the word avir, breath, air, is actually the word or, aleph, vav, resh, and the letter yud. The letter yud, we know from Chassidus and Kabbalah, is chokhmah, wisdom. What is avir? The air which surrounds chokhmah. Which means, listen to this, and this is something, an exercise I did with, in the last seminar. We're having actually another seminar coming up, please God, on May 12th.
Oh, beautiful.
At the House of More.
Beautiful.
Of course. A breathing seminar, a meditation seminar. And we explained that chokhmah and kadmus HaSechel, what comes before chokhmah, the Tzemach Tzedek explains that through the air, right, through the avir, you're able to reach the level of chokhmah, which means through the air, you're able to reach the new level of creativity. When I started, let me just give you a little background of my experience with breathing, because my experience for many, many years with meditation and focus and concentration and so on and so forth. And meditation, the way Chabad and Hasidus explains it, is really different than the meditation, which is transcendental meditation and so on and so forth, which has nothing to do with Judaism. There's a ratzo, there's a shuv, there is a longing, a connection, and then there's an absorption that you integrate in your life, right? It's all about integrating it in your day-to-day life. It's not just to have the trip of breathing and feeling high. That's not the purpose. But something very beautiful happened. I went to see Rabbi Yuval Asherov, a Kohen, which is in Oreganuz. One of my Baalei Tshuva lives in the yeshuv near Meron, which is called Oreganuz. And I said to him, I'd like to know, since you're a naturopath and you're one of the 3 top religious naturopaths in Israel, what do you recommend for people struggling with ADHD? I know a lot of people which are struggling with ADHD. And a way not with medicine and so on and so forth. He told me that he personally went to someone in Yerushalayim, a person which is 83 years old today, 85, which is a Jewish, obviously, and does breathing session, which is called transformational breathing.
He was saying he does it for himself, or he leads?
He went himself for 15 sessions. And he told me how this actually was able to get to empty the subconscious mind of all the nonsense, the past experiences. He's about tshuva himself. And how it brought it to the conscious mind and liberated him completely of it. So I have, in general, I mean, being a rabbi for 29 years now, you can imagine how many people I've sent to how many types of therapies. But I don't like to be the rabbi that's going to say, okay, you need help. You go get help over there, and you go fix your problem with this and this person. So I don't like to point fingers at anybody. We all need help. So maybe people will disagree with me. In general, I would say that 90% of the types of therapies I've sent people to, I tried it myself. Because I wanted to know, what am I sending a person to before I do it? I've never tried psychedelics. What am I... So I tried this process. It was absolutely mind-boggling. What is the theory? The theory is very simple. When you're a baby, one of the cutest things when you have a baby is you see the tummy and the whole system breathing in, out, breathing in, out. It's beautiful. It's so cute, right? But when you grow up, whatever that means, with the stresses of life and the traumas, there are different areas of your tummy, your lungs that are stressed, and they constrict themselves. Through this method of transformational breathing established by Judith Kravitz, and this student of Judith Kravitz, which is extraordinary, people come from all over the world to breathe that way. So I tried it out, and it was extraordinary, which means that with the breath, it's very hard work. You're really breathing in the place where it's blocked. And once you're able to get air over there, it just opens up. And once it opens up, the trauma or the stress or whatever associated with it comes from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind. And you can end up solving and end up resolving issues which have been irking you and you didn't even know about it. Which means it's very nice to say, I'm a religious Jew, I'm a practicing Jew, and I study and I learn and I do and so on and so forth. And at the end, you want more. You want more. But in order to have more, you need to make more space. In order to make more space, your mind needs to be in a healthy state. Your body needs to be in a healthy state. And I found that breathing, first of all, besides getting rid of the stuff that you're carrying, which you're not even aware about sometimes, it brings you to a certain state of peace of mind. Your vision on the world is different. The vision on yourself is different. I'm going to share something very, very personal, and it's not my style to do this. When I did this 1.5 hour session, personal session in breathing, something happened in me, and I came to the realization that whatever my experience and my struggles were, they're not a separate person of me. I've embraced the person I am. It's a part of this beautiful tapestry which makes me this wonderful person I am. You understand that for many, many people, they live at this dichotomy of my past life and my hidden struggle and the dark side of me. And then there's the side I show to everybody and I'm supposed to be for everybody that's so connected and so on and so forth. And it's a torture somewhere, somewhat. Once you understand that your struggles is who made you, the Rebbe explains it actually in the Sikha, explains it on the Rambam. The Rebbe explains, based on the Chinuch, that we say concerning Avraham Avinu, Avraham Baba Yamim, Avraham came with all the days of his life after 175 years. He didn't miss one day in serving God. The Rebbe asked, what are you talking about? According to one opinion, he discovered God at 3. The other opinion, 40. The other opinion, 48. At 75, he left his house. At 99, he had a bris. How do you say that every day of his life was dedicated to the service of God? So the Rebbe explained that the struggle, the searching, the difficulties, that is a part of serving God. Because what brought him to come to such a high level? It's all of the past. So for many people, why do they have problems? Because they just can't reconcile that I have this struggle and I have this presence and no, it's all one. It's okay. You're okay. You're beautiful the way you are. Yes, but I had tattoos and I had this thing and I did this wrong thing and I had this trauma and I lived this abuse. Hello. Look what you're doing to the world today. Look who you are. Look, it's all, and then that's a true tshuva. Because you bring all of yourself to Hashem. It's not a part of me is buried in some box down in the ocean that nobody should know about, right? I'm not saying you should expose all your problems and your personal stuff. I'm not saying that.
You're saying to yourself to have true self-acceptance.
You should feel, you know what? I believe in Ashgacha Pratit. I believe in divine providence. I was born to these parents. I was born to this experience. I did not grow up in the system like everyone. I want to tell you, most of the most successful people, Rabbi Steinsaltz and all the great influencers of the world, don't have a common life. King David himself didn't have a common life. Avraham Avinu. Once you realize that, and that for me was, okay, what am I feeling so bad? I remember, in Chabad, we have something that's, in Farbrengens, many times we talk about bitul. You're a nobody, and you're a zero, and really, and I think a lot of yeshiva boys misconceive what that means.
Go ahead.
I remember one day, a friend of mine from England was visiting his son in yeshiva, and he came by. His name is Daniel. And I took him aside. I had a beautiful event for Hanukkah. Hundreds of people came. And I said to him, Daniel, I have a problem. I want to discuss something with you. At the time, I was speaking all over the world. And hundreds of people coming to lectures in French, in English, in Hebrew. A successful Chabad house in an affluent neighborhood. You would think, I'm Chay Amar feels like he's $1 million, somebody exceptional. I'm going to look down at everybody. I told him, Daniel, I don't know what I have. Since I left yeshiva, however much I do, however much I'm successful, and people tell me I'm successful, I feel I'm a zero. He said, I have the same thing. I had the same thing. And I went to see Rabbi Zelf Wolf Greenglass, alav shalom, the Rebbe's Mekubal.
How did he get that title?
How he used to lend the Rebbe's books of Kabbalah before the Rebbe became the Rebbe, took the Nesias. And besides that, he was a real Mekubal. But of a level of humility which is unparalleled. He said he went to see him, and he told him, I have a problem. When he was a yeshiva boy, he told him, I have a problem. I go into the Zal, into the Beis Midrash, into where everybody is studying in the yeshiva, and I see this one knows how to learn every Rashi, every Tosfos, and he knows the Gemara, and the other one, he's a oived, he serves Hashem in prayer for hours. The other one, he's a maskil, he understands Chassidus. The other one, he knows what the Rebbe said at what time, and all the details. And the other one knows Yiddish perfectly. The other one knows Aramaic. I feel like I'm a zero. Rabbi Greenglass told him one sentence. He said, stop comparing your inner struggles to other people's external appearance. I'm going to repeat it. Stop comparing your inner struggles, which you're the only one that's aware, and that's your reality, and you're the only one that knows, to people's external external appearance. You don't know what they're going through. Moto Kuzliner once told me, and if I bring in, to be a chassid, to be a great pious man when you're under your talis is not a big deal. It's when you're under your sheets at night and you're all by yourself with God. And only God knows what's going through your mind. That's the moment. We all go through struggles. I don't care who you are, what you are. Today, we all know that everybody goes through struggles. It doesn't matter if you're worth $10 billion or if you have nothing. It doesn't matter if you're the most popular guy or the person. Once he told me that, things changed in my mind. You know, who cares about what people think, what people don't think? I want to say so many times, for years, I will tell you, for years I stopped being on the public scene and speaking and so on and so forth, and I really regret it. Why? Because I was scared of all the criticism I'm going to get. In that sense, I admire a lot of the speakers that didn't mind all the criticism, just continued. You know, we value so much what's outside, and we waste so much energy when we have so much potential inside of us. I think it's time to regroup yourself. By the way, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes in a mimer that the word Shema Yisrael, comes from the word regrouping. Vayishama Shaul et am. Shaul, King Saul, regrouped the people. Shema means you take all of your energies, all of your experiences. Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Regroup. And one way of regrouping is breathing. In Torah Kabbalah, breathing is something that is something that is practiced and has a tremendous effect. When you breathe, you actually, when you feel the mind is verstoppt, is blocked, and the heart is blocked, I guarantee you, spend 15 minutes with me and breathe, and you're going to see how suddenly your mind opens up. A lot of us have shut down because of whatever. Because of ourselves, because of the outside, because of experiences, because of traumas, whatever it is, shut down that expression of our creativity. Do you know how much you have to offer the world? Everybody has so much to offer the world. If you ask me today what my goal is, I remember some 25 years ago, I sat with myself and really meditated, and a guided meditation. I said, what is my purpose in the world? What's my ultimate purpose? And then I just wrote it. And the sentence was, my purpose is to make people aware of what their potential is. That's my biggest joy in life. When I see somebody that has a potential and he's not aware, it's like I tell you, you have a treasure. Right, Eli, you have a treasure. And Baruch Hashem, I see you're sharing it with the world. That treasure, if you could share it with the world and bring other people to treasure their treasure. And that's what I was telling you before we started the podcast. The Gemara in Baba Metzia says about Avraham Avinu that he had a necklace and he had a pearl hanging from this necklace. He had a stone hanging from this necklace. Anybody that would look at that stone would be healed. My high. What happened over there?
Right.
So I have my own personal interpretation of what that means. Anybody looked at Avraham Avinu and saw all the struggles he had, and that nevertheless he continued, he would be healed. He would say, you know what, I could do it too.
So why the necklace?
I'm sorry?
Why the necklace?
Why this necklace? A good question. He had a pearl, but it says, and the Ragashover brings it down, something beautiful, that when he passed away, Hashem put this stone under the sun. And this stone was a very special stone that grew from the sun. And from this stone were carved the 10 Commandments. If you remember at Matan Torah, at the moment of the giving of Torah, everybody was healed. The Torah is the ultimate healing. But I think it's time to stop running and trying to just cover more ground and say I know more.
We got to change the name.
Yeah. we have to.
No, I'm saying change the name of the podcast.
be
In search of
more.
more. Okay, we're back to more.
Don't know more. Be more. House the more. When I say be more, the experience you have with Torah, live it fully. Be there, be present. That's what is in Chassidus is called das. It becomes something which is personal. And then the life that you're living is a life full of meaning, full of vitality and everything. But in order to do that, we need to take some obstacles out of the way. And I believe that breathing, meditation, contemplating, taking the time to stop, give yourself an exercise. Okay, I just remembered something. I have a good friend, a shliach in Venetian Islands, a beautiful person, Rabbi Amar, Shmuel Man. And some 25 years ago, I used to study Chassidus. We used to study Chassidus on the phone in the morning. And one day I just came up with this crazy idea. I said, Shmuelki, let's do the following. We learned the Maimach Chassidus today for 25 minutes, half an hour, an hour. They say you're supposed to drink 8 cups of water every day. We're going to put 8 alarm clocks. And each time the alarm clock rings, for 1 full minute, we're going to put a timer for a minute, and we're going to review the Maimach Chassidus, what we learned in our mind for 1 minute. I remember after a full day of doing this, came back to him, I said, were you successful? He said, I did it 3 times. I told him I did it 5 times. I want to tell you, it was like getting a brain adjustment, like by a chiropractor, suddenly you feel upright, you feel, I feel good with myself. I feel, my mind was calmed down for that 1 minute. Try it. Try to take a concept in Chassidus that you learn, a Perek Tanya, whatever it is, and think about it. Try, if you want to do it with just being grateful, take that 1 minute, do it 2-3 times a day. You will see how your mind, which is so overwhelmed with so much information, being pulled in so many directions, with so many phone calls, suddenly, wow, I can think. I can be present. So I want to tell you that a lot of me being able to be present right now, I attribute to the fact that I did this avodah in davening, in meditating, and in breathing. It just gives you a good ground to be able to solidify and ground yourself. And in Torah, you see that in Parashas Vayera and Torah Or, it talks about the fact that the Jewish people, before, when we were in Egypt, and we were like a ubar, like a fetus, and once we were born, what happens when you're born? So suddenly, you're able to take your first breath. And then you're able to see, you're able to hear. Suddenly your senses come to life. Breathing does that to a person. Am I saying that you should go crazy and do this every day? No. You have 1,440 minutes in a day. Once a month. Once a week, take an hour. Go to a retreat if you want for a full day. It's tremendous. And afterwards, take 10 minutes a day of just breathing. You will see it's going to bring you a certain calm. It calms.
So what you're recommending specifically, because obviously everyone's breathing all the time, is to breathe fully, to breathe consciously? What's your recommendation?
So there are many types of breathing. The intense breathing I teach, and I thought last time, was with the diaphragm, where you really go to the deepest places. What I actually did with the men that were present is I actually put or asked them to do it themselves, to put their hands in different areas of their stomach, the diaphragm, the sides, the back, and breathe into that place, and breathing strong, deeply, and let go. And at a certain point, you saw that people got it.
Right.
So to do a group session like this was, it was extraordinary, the energy that there is. And afterwards, once you did that, you sit down and you say, okay, what's my vision? Now that I've took out so much of the toxins inside of my body, my mind is clearer, right? I want to start a healthier type of lifestyle. Maybe I'm going to drink more water. Maybe I'll stop with some sugars and all that stuff and so on and so forth. And
maybe we'll think about our purpose, like you had mentioned years ago, right? Thinking about what your purpose is.
yes, exactly.
A lot
What
of
your
people
purpose is
never,
and how to apply it.
yes, never did
We
that in
had
the
a
whole life.
session of an hour of meditation and vision at the end of the seminar that we did, and it was, I want to tell you, I was incredible. It was really, really, really incredible. I want to tell you, even though I led the seminar, so I wasn't breathing as much as everybody else, I came out of this with a new level of vitality. I have a student, Yaakov Asaya, which is a student learned in my yeshiva, and I found that he's very sensitive to people, to the nefesh ha'adam, the psyche, and so I sent him all over the world, in Italy, in Belgium, in Portugal, in France, and other places, to learn breathing, but really the real stuff. And we talked about what's kosher, what would not be kosher.
He does retreats with you.
And he's not doing this retreat with me, but eventually he will. But he's treated a lot of people I sent him to.
Beautiful.
And when he was here as a yeshiva boy, every day we would go. I have somebody that has a private beach across the street from me. The advantage of being in Golden Beach, without having to pay the taxes. And I would go very early in the morning, like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And for 15 minutes, we would do different exercises that he learned and breathing exercises. I want to tell you the level of energy, my sleep, my focus, my patience, my concentration, the energy, avir, air is energy. It's energy. You want to energize the right spots. You know, you want to do it in the right way. And it's kosher. I mean, there's nothing, not doing mantras and I'm just breathing, getting the system ready, and then associating that to the meditations that we learn in Chassidus. It's very nice that we're learning and people are knowledgeable, but how much of it is actually integrated? How much has become your personal experience?
Right.
I see a lot of people that they could talk and I'm in awe of what they know. But did you experience it? Did you ever experience what it means? I just saw a story. Rabbi Mendel Futterfass saw Rabbi Chay Amar. Rabbi Chay Amar was an Ilui. He was a genius in Torah, and he would study for 18 hours a day. He would study Talmud for 18 hours a day. When he discovered Chassidus, he started studying Chassidus for 18 hours a day. One day he was praying, and Rabbi Mendel Futterfass saw him, and suddenly he did certain motions with his hands. Now in Chassidus, Chabad, one of the hardest things when I came to Chabad was, there's no motions. There's no external, everything has to be internalized. Nothing can be outside. So Rabbi Mendel Futterfass started laughing at him. He says, what type of service? How is that Chabad? I forgot who it was. I forgot. Came up to Rabbi Mendel Futterfass. He said, if you felt 10% of what he feels when he prays, you would be jumping all over the room. I saw Hasidim, like Rabbi Mendel, like Rabbi Moshe Rubin, and other Hasidim, and other friends, Chaverim, pray for hours. I've experienced it. When you integrate what you learn and you do it through prayer and you really have a relationship, you can go conquer the whole world. You just had an encounter with Hashem. And then instead of saying to God how big your problems are, you say to your problems how big God is, because that's your reality. It became your reality. So what do you want your reality to be? That's the question. And how are you going to make your body a keli for it? And I'm not saying breathing is the only thing, right? There's eating right, exercising. You have to be
There's cold plunge.
What?
There's cold plunge. Cold plunge. Cold plunge.
Oh, cold plunge. Yeah, if you want to do that too. If you don't have cold feet. Taking the time, it's like...
The mikvahs in Lubavitch were not warm.
They say that in the olden days, the people were so warm they could go in a cold mikvah.
But Aryeh Kaplan, which I understand, I don't know how I heard this from, but I understand that he was inspired by the Rebbe's call to action that you referred to, that meditation has to be brought in a Jewish way. So he wrote a couple of books, Meditation on Kabbalah, Jewish Meditation, and in one of them, I think it was Jewish Meditation, he says that what breathing does is that typically breathing is a subconscious pattern, a process. He says when you consciously take over your breathing, then it's a signal to your subconscious to make which is subconscious conscious. So being that breathing is typically a subconscious process, and now you're doing it consciously, so now it's everything else, you're letting it know, hey,
not only that,
we're ready to deal with you.
Once you train yourself in breathing in certain patterns, square breathing, and this type of breathing, and so on and so forth, what's great is that your body starts doing it by itself. So the struggles, for example, with anger, people have struggled with anger. The Zohar says that in Tikkunei Zohar, I think 19, it talks about the fact that the lungs have 5 flaps, right? 5 flaps, so 3 on the right, 2 on the left, and they surround the heart. Because the heat of the heart is so great that if we didn't have the lungs to cool it down, our whole body would dehydrate. It would be too hard. I want to tell you, when it comes to anger, to self-control, I dare anyone that has a temptation for food. I don't know if I should go into my addiction with food. I don't know.
You can go into mine.
To take a moment and take 1 minute on the clock to breathe and say, 1 second, am I taking this piece or not? And make a more conscious decision.
Yeah.
Really. There's some simple tools that Hashem offered us. Let's use it properly, It's not,
yes. No, I agree. To me, it's a no-brainer, proven out by experience. But I still see that there's resistance. I mean, as recently as last week, I spent Pesach with family. We're doing this 2 days after Pesach. We're recording this, and I got challenged how I'm hosting breathwork ceremonies, and I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "The word ceremony." I said, "If only religious people weren't so afraid of a spiritual work, a spiritual word."
I think. I mean, obviously, I don't know who does the breathwork here. I think it's important to introduce more Torah. There's a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Yehuda Zebritzer, if I'm not mistaken. He wrote a book called Minchas Yehuda, and not Minchas Yehuda of Rabbi Yehuda Petaya, which is a student of the Ben Ish Chai. Over there, he lived in Yerushalayim at the time of Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, Tzal. And over there, he speaks about an experiment he made. It says, Avira de Eretz Yisrael machkim. The air of Israel makes you smarter. I don't know if that works for the government too. But anyways, sorry for that comment. And what happens is that he calculated the hydrogen that there is in the air in Yerushalayim versus the hydrogen in Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora. The level of, and he was a Kabbalist himself, he said the hydrogen that was in the air of Jerusalem was 26%, while the outside of Israel was 21%. And he calls this avir hamechaye and avir hachonek, the air which brings life and the air that suffocates you, right? Carbon dioxide versus. And he said basically, in the air itself, the conscious breathing, right, brings more vitality. And I'm telling you, it's true. You can imagine the difference too. I mean, I just recalled now, I had a problem with tingling in the tip of my fingers. So one of my teachers told me, Shai, from Yid, he told me, Shai, every day for 15 minutes, you go to any neurologist that start giving you stuff, and I'm not so much into it, to say the least. He told me every day for 15 minutes you're going to breathe. He gave me a specific breathing exercise that was pretty aggressive and pretty difficult to do, but it took 5 minutes a day to do it. I did it. Within 3 weeks, not only my tingling went away, I lost 7 pounds. Tremendous.
I want to respond to one thing you said, just so we don't lose it. I'm not suggesting that there isn't breath work and meditation that's mixed in with a bunch of other things. Of course there are. When Rustavara Wallen sat here, she said, she told her story of how she got so into it, is that when she was learning transcendental meditation, they give them a mantra. So she had this mantra that she didn't know what it meant, and for years she's repeating this mantra, and eventually she finds out it's a deity, an Indian deity, and that's why she became so passionate about it, because here she was learning meditation, wasn't interested in praying or chanting to a deity. So she recognized how things are woven in and mixed in, and she said, okay, how can we offer it without it? I'm talking about what you respond to at the beginning was kind of more throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, of course, breathing is not Buddhism. Like you just said it as an absolute. It's just breathing, and that's the point. Meaning, everything could be mixed in. I can talk about food, and there's non-kosher food, and there's kosher food, but we wouldn't throw out the concept of food because there's non-kosher food.
Correct.
Just the opposite. We would say, how do we get more people kosher food? Which is, I think, what you're saying, and what you're saying is, how do I offer this meditation? And many people have showed me. I mean, I've been very outspoken about psychedelics and about healing and about other things. So people have shared the Rebbe letter. I've seen. It's been shared with me many times. There's some sort of conversation about LSD. But another one is his video on. There's a 10-minute video or so on transcendental meditation. And my takeaway from that, which I think to some degree inspires the mission with the House of More, I say some degree because we're not all the way there yet. We're working, Mylin B'Kaidish. Slowly will improve more and more. But is the call, I didn't hear in the video him challenging a single person who's going to transcendental meditation. I heard him challenge his followers to create spaces that are equal or better to the other offerings, and then his assurance that when they're there, people will come. Right? If you give people the option and say you can get healing in this place or in that place, they're going to go to the Jewish one if that's what if they're Jewish and if they're called to that.
That's what I'm trying to offer, and I'll tell you, I'm going to share with you maybe something it's a little early to share, but my vision would be eventually that. We have a center where there's so many different therapies. By the way, a part of the breathing therapy, there is sound therapy. Now, you're going to say sound. Oh, that's already Buddhist. That's for sure it's Buddhist. No, it's not. It's just sound.
Music.
Sound, music. Music is very healing, absolutely. But knowing how to use sound and breath.
Your own sounds.
Yes.
Vibration. Yeah, we have someone who does.
Right, which is just vowels. Vowels. You have no idea how many people get healed, right? Because the vibration that you're doing, I'm not talking about anything religious now. I'm talking about just vowels, right? Look in Shar Tanta, in Etz Chaim of Rabbi Chaim Vital, and you will see that he talks about the different levels of the soul, and that there's a certain level which is the vowels, which are the sounds. Yeah. When you create a certain vibration in the body, right, people could actually heal from that Physically, I'm talking about even physical sicknesses. There are people that do that. I know somebody in Italy that does that. And it's become a worldwide consciousness, you know. And when we talk about Rucho shel Mashiach, we talk about the spirit of Mashiach, we talk about the breath, Avir shel Mashiach, right? It's this. It's a level of consciousness where I'm not bound to only everything that's physical. I'm able to be more a master of myself, and therefore the physical is a tool to carry my soul, to carry my breath.
So your dream is to...
Yeah, so my dream is really, I work with other people, with Rabbi Asher Bromberg, which does incredible therapy. There's for ADHD with Rabbi Arnie, Dr. Arnie Gottfried, and other people that through, for example, ADHD can be helped through cross-pattern exercises. You know, there are things which are in our body, in our system, that if we could start practicing them, heal our body, take the time, take 15 minutes a day. So the famous story of the guy that was cutting a tree, you know, and he's there at 3 p.m, and somebody tells him, why don't you stop for 15 minutes to sharpen your saw? He says, what do you mean? Yesterday, with that saw, I cut six trees. Today, it's 3 p.m. I'm still on my third tree. Think I have 15 minutes to sharpen my saw. Are you foolish? Sharpen your saw, and you're going to see how you're going to do much better. Go to sleep earlier, drink water, breathe, take the time to do certain exercises with your body, put yourself in sync, and see how you perform. I want to tell you, since I've been taking more care of my body, I could tell you that it's a different life. I mean, the focus, the presence, what you get accomplished in so much more, in so much less time, and you're able to enjoy more.
There's a Chinese proverb that says everyone should meditate a half hour a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should meditate an hour a day.
I didn't know that. So take the time and be present. The Chassidus says, Rebbe Rashab says, Pnimi is vu ariz ezer ganzen. Pnimi is somebody that when he's doing something, he's fully there. I think that most people today are not fully there.
It certainly takes a lot of work and a lot of discipline to be. We have a lot competing with us. For the largest corporations in America, the most valuable asset is people's attention. So we're competing against a lot. There's big dollars. There's a guy who I think he was responsible for the team on Facebook which developed the like. And I saw afterwards he defected from social media. And he realized that he was fighting on the dark side, and he needs to try to fight on the light side. There's a point he made. I think it was an article that I came across that he wrote, and he wrote about not only the billions of dollars, but the minds that are sitting there for the tremendous brain power that's invested by these companies in order to figure out how to get someone to use these tools for. Can we get them up from 3 minutes a day for 3.5 minutes a day, from 3.5 minutes to 5? We're not up against like a little kid on the corner trying to distract us. We're up against behemoths who are doing whatever they could to pull at our attention. So having tools and resources.
And you can imagine with AI today, what's happening. You have this whole people that are going to start getting involved in a whole more fake reality. I'm just, there's so much. That's why I think it's really important to take time for yourself. Take time for yourself, because at the end of the day, you're going to be more of yourself. Your spouse will enjoy you more. You'll enjoy yourself more. Your children will enjoy you more. And eventually, your house will become a house of more. More good things.
Yeah, and for people, I'll just say this, for people on the other side of this, on the marketing side, we feel like we're making a choice, but they know we're not making a choice. And what I mean by that is they'll tell you down to within a % or two of, let's say we send this email out to 100,000 people, or we put this ad out to 100,000 people. 10,000 are going to look at it. 1,000 are going to click on it, and 100 are going to buy. So we think we have choice, but they have predicted this. There's 100 people who are buying this thing. They know this down to a science, and they can put the money behind it. There's 10,000 who are going to get lost in it, meaning we have less choice than we think we have against this. And I think that being proactive on the other side of doing things and offering things that can bring people's attention present is the call of the hour For sure. So on that note, I know you mentioned that around 7:15, you predict that the sun will go down, which means that there may be a mincha. And either before or after, we can invite you to a freezing cold mikveh. It would be a pleasure to introduce you to one more of the...
Bezrat Hashem. That would be fantastic.
But thank you so much. I appreciate
my pleasure.
your message.
Those who want to participate in our seminars and everything, you could always go to soulboost.org or...
Soul what?
Soulboost.
Soulboost.org.
.org, right? I don't know if it's been updated yet, but we'll have this next seminar, hopefully May 12th. We're going to learn about reframing our minds, the method of Rabbi Akiva on how he was able to reframe and overcome certain challenges. And we'll have...
It's for men, women?
Men and women as well. Men and women as well. Right? Everything obviously in a modest way, according to halacha. And if not, you can just contact me directly by WhatsApp, 786-325-2329.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 786-325-2329. You can just send me a message, and we'll be gladly there to hopefully answer the questions or participate with you. The most important, if I could leave a message for everyone, is...
You're not a clone. No, I'm kidding.
Huh?
You're not a clone. I'm joking. I was bookending. You want to say bookending?
Oh, yes.
Right, so you bring something from the beginning to the end, it feels like the conversation is complete. But I'll let you...
Take 10 minutes a day. Take 10 minutes a day to ask yourself, what did you accomplish today? At the end of your day, chassidish thing. What did you accomplish today? How can tomorrow be better than today? And keep on working on that. And slowly but surely, you see how one thing, another thing, and you'll see your life being transformed. Nothing happens overnight. Don't get fooled. We don't get, God forbid, sick overnight. You don't get healthy overnight either. So don't ever discourage yourself. Keep yourself in the matara and the goal. 10 minutes a day, just do it. And connect to Hashem. 10 minutes a day. Connect to yourself. Connect to your children. Do things 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes at a time. And see how in no time your whole life will be transformed. I used to be the most disorganized person. I hired somebody, I paid somebody, because when you're a shliach, you could do basically whatever you want. Nobody's going to know what you're going to do. I paid somebody to be my boss, and I would prepare my week with them at the beginning for an hour. Wednesday, I would report on what I accomplished. Friday, I would review my week, and I did this for a year and a half. It transformed my life. Take the time to plan ahead, to know where you're going, where you want to go, and keep tabs on yourself. Write your 3 accomplishments of the day every night before you go to sleep, your 3 shortfalls. And you're going to see, I'm going to prophesize right here what's going to happen. Your accomplishments will always get newer and better. Your shortfalls will always be the same. I'm telling you, try it. Try it. I've given this advice to millionaires and to the most simple people of society. I did it myself. I want to tell you, it's incredible. Just be more conscious of where you are. Don't let life carry you. Take the time to breathe. And those who want, you can always get my book, In Chaos,
oh, yes, let's talk about
which is a book I wrote.
Is this
over
recent?
15 years, actually. It's not 15-year-old, but it took me 15 years to write it, called To Be or To Become.
Develop the power of positive perspective.
Yeah. And over there, I speak about many things, relationships, some of the stuff we spoke about today. And you can get it online on Amazon or Kehos or whatever.
Yeah. I do want to highlight one thing you said, and we'll end on this note, because a few times when you were speaking, I was thinking about a friend of mine who about 5 or 6 years ago started to become more religious. Today, he probably considers himself a Baal Tshuva. And he grew up completely secular. Not traditional, nothing, zero. And slowly, I'm not even sure how, but over the last number of years, and mostly through Chabad, he's become more and more observant. And the amount of times he told me that he feels terrible that for years he didn't keep Shabbos, and for years he didn't keep kosher, and for years he didn't grow up in, he always says, oh, you know more than me. I didn't grow up in this way. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what I'm doing and everything else. I said, you know more than, just the opposite. You know more than me. Meaning I was introduced to it by rote. You're introduced to it, as something fresh, but he carries around this tremendous guilt about his past. And throughout this conversation, you weaved in a few times that theme of being able to bring together all of us. The divine providence, no aspect of our life is a mistake.
Nothing.
And I want to highlight and underscore that.
Yeah,
because I
it's
think
important. And we need to embrace it. To embrace it, you know. The greatest people, I remember when I was in France, I was learning in Litvisher Yeshiva. I would escape with a group of guys, and we learned Chassidus with a rabbi from Breslev, Rabbi Besançon. And he once told us a story that really had a tremendous impact on me. He said that there was this French rock star. She became observant. And the women gathered, invited her to a meeting, and they said, you have to calm down, you have to cool it. You're really going nuts, you're giving classes all the time, and you're not stopping. Take care of yourself. And she answered them the following. She said, do you know when I was a rock star, before a concert and after the concert I would throw up? Do you know that when I was on the concert, I would go nuts, I would break my guitar, be like a wild animal coming out of a cage, right? Like good rock stars, you know? Mm-hmm. And I would go nuts and put all my energy. Says, this is when I thought that was the truth of life. Now that I discovered the truth, you want me to calm down? Which means, no, don't feel guilty. Use all of that. Use your qualities, use your experience, that your relationship with God will be a true one. The person that didn't fall where you fell,
doesn't know what you know.
He could fall at any time.
It's true.
You know what he doesn't know. I'm not saying that, God forbid, people should try to go no, because eventually...
Right, some people don't come back.
I'm just saying, the way you are is the most beautiful, but continue growing. Don't stop.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ali, for
appreciate you coming, sharing your message, and
pleasure.
You may regret giving your cell phone number, but we'll see. It can always be changed. We'll see how well. We'll see how many people listen that far into the podcast.
Hopefully, that's not going to be one of them 1-minute clips. God bless you.
Thank you so much.